Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I thought I would share some more of what I've been sewing recently. So I did quite a bit of sewing before I went on my holiday, and then I've had a little bit of time off because I was away for a few weeks, and then because I came back and I just had like no money basically, and sewing ends up being kind of an expensive hobby, and fabric ends up being quite expensive, and I have lots of bits of fabric left over, but I either don't have enough to make anything that I have a pattern for, or it's the exact same fabric that I've already used for something else, and I think it would just be a bit weird if I then made like an entire wardrobe out of the same really crazy floral jersey fabric that looks like an old lady's curtains. I mean, that's why I bought it, so maybe I do want a whole wardrobe out of it, but it might look a bit weird. I think people would just probably not be able to tell the clothes apart. I did decide that was a bit ridiculous, and it was a little bit wasteful if I'm going to be looking at buying new fabric every single time when I already have fabric in my drawers that I could use for things. I also have a list of several other things that I want to buy to help me with sewing. So a rotary cutter and a cutting mat, glass-headed pins, pattern weights, and a walking foot. A lot of that is related to cutting stretch fabrics because they are trickier than, or I found them trickier anyway, to sew than non-stretch fabrics. But I, again, don't have any money. So I decided to use what I have and use some of the fabric that I have to make my next project. First though, I went back to the last thing that I made, which was this dress. The Zadie dress by Tilly and the Buttons. I just thought it would be better if I threw everything on the floor first. Yeah. So yeah, the Zadie dress by Tilly and the Buttons. So it's a sewing pattern for improvers using stretch fabric, so maybe I wasn't quite an improver. I actually think I did a pretty good job of making the dress, of like the actual construction. There were little bits where it was a little bit fiddly, and there were some bits where my sewing, like my top stitching, was a little bit askew. I did struggle to sew this black fabric, I don't know why, but the multicolored fabric was actually really easy to sew. I did a review of this, or like a video about this, as well as the Agnes top, so I can link that somewhere. But my problem with this was that it was just way too big, and I didn't understand the sizing, and I still don't understand the sizing, because I cut the same size in this that I cut in all the other Tilly and the Buttons patterns, and this just came up being about 2 sizes too big, and I didn't really get it. It was just weird. So I have lots of extra fabric, so ideally, I mean, really what you should do is unpick it all, recut the pattern pieces and sew it back together, but I mean, that just wasn't going to happen. But I didn't want it just to sit in a pile and never ever get worn, so I did decide, okay, Florence, you are not buying extra fabric, so go back to this one and kind of fix it. So I have taken it in at the sides, so these side bits now have a side seam, which they're not really supposed to, but then I took it in by a couple of inches on each side. And then I also had the weird problem that there was loads of extra fabric in the back of the neck. So one of the comments on my video was to put a dart in at the back, and I think I said, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. But I did basically put a dart in at the back of the neck. I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so I'm just making it up. But it was really annoying because I was really happy with how the neckband was actually sitting. I was quite pleased with myself, and I had to unpick that and cut it shorter, take in the back of the neck, and then re-sew the neckband, which was so much harder to do like on the fly. It was quite hard to stitch it without there being like little holes, and then I had to top stitch over it, and the top stitching is really not neat at all because, again, my sewing machine really hates this black fabric, and I don't really know why. But I'm hoping if I do manage to buy like a walking foot and stuff to help with stretch fabrics, that it'll be easier to sew fabrics like this. But it really just did not like sewing the black fabric. But anyway, I have taken it in, and it definitely is an improvement. However, it is still like really poofy at the front, and definitely looks like it could be maternity wear. So I don't know how much wear I'll get out of it as a result, but It's a shame because I did like the style, and I do like wearing dresses because trousers are so difficult to get to fit, even like ready to wear or homemade. Either way, they're always a bit of a nightmare. And I like this fabric. I think there's something about this fabric that looks like it's textured. It's like waffly. I don't know if that comes up on the camera. And it's kind of like if you got some waffly paper and then you I like this fabric. It's quite textured. It's kind of waffly feeling. I don't know if that comes across on the camera, but it does kind of look like if you went onto Microsoft Paint and just splodged a bunch of colours, printed that out, and then printed it onto waffly paper. But in a way that's good, I think. I like it. And I did have a ton left over because even though I'm trying really hard to only buy what I need based on the instructions on the packet, I still seem to be buying too much fabric when I'm saying that, but then I've got some pieces where I've bought not enough fabric, so I can't make anything out of that either. So I don't know what I'm doing. I need to get myself together. Anyway, so as you can see, I've made a top out of the same fabric. If the Zadie dress was for improvers, I thought it would be easier to go back to the Coco dress / top, also by tilling the buttons, which is for confident beginners, which I feel like is more where I'm at. But then I guess if you have to ask whether or not you're confident, then you're probably not that confident. But anyway, I've heard that this one is one of the easier ones that you're recommended to kind of start with. So I thought it would be okay. It is a dress that you can also make a top version out of. And there are a couple of different options. So you can have a funnel neck, you can also have cuffs on the sleeve, and then there's also some patch pockets if you want to have pockets on there. I decided to go for the top with the funnel neck, without the cuffs and without any pockets, because I think the patch pockets look a bit odd. And I don't know that I would use them because I think as soon as you put something in it, it kind of weighs you down a bit weirdly. I went for the top because I thought it'd be more practical, as well as the fit of the dress I don't think would really suit me. Because these are all for beginners, or these ones are for beginners, they don't really have any darts or tucks or pleats or anything like that to give it any shaping, so I don't think that style would really suit me as a dress, so I made it in the top instead. Unfortunately, it's the same problem I think in the top, and the fit just feels a bit weird around my chest, like it needs to have some kind of darting in it. It kind of feels like the front and the back of the bodice are basically the same, apart from the neckline on the front is slightly lower, and that to me is weird because my front and back are not the same, and I mean I'm not even particularly curvy, so it just fits a little bit awkwardly. I also had the problem that I really liked the idea that it has a split hem at the bottom, because I have a split hem jumper which I wear sometimes to work because it's just grey and boring, but I really like the split hem element of it. And so I thought that would be quite cool, but then when I'd made it, the top was just seemed really, really long. So I then decided to shorten it by just turning it up where the split hem had come to, and now it's a bit too short, but that's kind of my fault, I suppose. It just has this weird kind of shape to it, like this, and it kind of, so it funnels out a little bit, and so I've made it shorter so it doesn't quite still have that same shape, but it still does a little bit, and because this fabric's a little bit structured, it still seems to go like this at the bottom, which is just a bit awkward, I think. Yeah, the fit, I mean the sleeves seem a little bit too loose to me. I mean it's minuscule, and then when I have my arms straight they seem long enough, and when I go like this they shrink a little bit, and so I have a little bit of visible wrist. And yeah, it feels like it just needs something. I also did the funnel neck. Put my hair up. And I just can't quite figure this out. So it's just a rectangular piece that you add on top, and then it tells you, so you sew it to the neckline and then you top stitch it in place, and then it tells you to fold over just enough to cover up that line of top stitching, and I can't for the life of me fold it over in a way that covers up that visible top stitching in a way that actually stays there. So I have found other ways to kind of position it. If I play around with it a lot, I can sort of change a little bit of how it sits, but it doesn't stay there at all for like a second, because my shoulders, especially the sides, my shoulders like push it back upwards, unless I fold it in place and then put a few stitches in to hold it in place. But I'm pretty sure that's not in the instructions, so I'm just really confused as to how this is supposed to sit. So is it fine just sitting like folded over like this, even though you can see the top stitching, or should I be playing around with it a little bit more to get it in a way where you can't see that top stitching and then sew it in place? But then I still don't know how that would work, because I've been messing around with it and I just can't quite figure out how it will sit in a way that, the way that I got it to work, it was like really wide, because they do, Tilly and the Buttons do quite wide necks. Like it's very wide, but it's not necessarily low cut. So they just seem to think everyone has quite broad shoulders, I guess, but I don't. So maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know. I don't hate this jumper. I do like the pattern. It is comfortable to wear. It's easy to wear. I don't know if it's a jumper though, or whether it's a top, because I don't know how it would work with something underneath. I mean, I've got just like a vest top underneath at the moment. I think it would feel a bit weird as a top, but then it's not really thick enough to be a jumper. But maybe having a thin jumper is good in your arsenal of clothes for like spring days or summer days, because I mean the weather's gone rubbish again here. I don't know, and I'm questioning why I made it, to be honest with you. If I tried this on in a shop, I wouldn't buy it because of the fit problems. It just feels like it definitely needs something here, like I have weird extra fabric on this part of my chest, which just seems a bit weird, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this funnel thing. But I've made it and I like the fabric and it's not horrendous, so we'll see if I wear it. Those are my two makes. They're not the most successful makes ever, I've got to be honest, but I'm still really enjoying the sewing, and I can definitely get into sewing and then get completely caught up in it, and then suddenly it's like 2 a.m. and you have to like physically pull me away from the sewing machine, which makes it a good thing that I have a couple of days off work at the moment to do this, and it's not a work night. I am really enjoying it as a hobby. I just need to kind of be a bit more organised, I think, in the patterns I'm using, the sizes I'm using, and the fabric that I'm buying and also using. I'm trying to use up my scraps, but that doesn't always work. But overall, I'd say that my sewing journey has been quite successful, with just a few little bumps in the road. So I'm okay, I'm happy with that. If you have any tips for any of these patterns, or for sewing with stretchy fabrics, or just generally for life advice, please leave them in the comments below. If you've liked the video, please give it a like, and as always, if you want to see more videos, please subscribe.